Today is Saturday, June 24th, 2026. And I had a comment come in, and the commenter made a good point. He said, with all the data centers that are being built, engineers and operators are going to be in demand more than ever. And I'm talking about like field engineers, field operators, people that are usually on site or maybe have a hybrid role. So yes, he's right. The AI data centers will need people who understand infrastructure to man them. Will those be high-paying jobs? How technical are those jobs going to be? What type of training are engineers and operators receiving to keep up with the changing infrastructure inside of a AI facility or data farm or server farm, super center, smart facility, whatever you want to call it? I've managed them all. Bitcoin mining operations, the smartest mRNA laboratory facility complex on the planet, according to their marketing material. So, yes, but how are these people being trained any differently than they were in the past to run this new sophisticated technology that's being built into these new sophisticated smart facilities? Well, the answer is they're not. Often what happens in engineering, operators, technicians on site is the person with the most experience, who's often the older person. And sometimes in engineering, there are different levels of licensing, right? So you might have a first grade license, you might have a second grade license, you might have a third grade license. They assume if you have this grade of license that it makes, then you're a better candidate. You're qualified to run a larger boiler. So you're meeting the bare minimum criteria. I gotta tell you, boilers are the most boring thing on the planet, and the planet runs on boilers. Now, steam engineering is fascinating, but I am not passionate about boiler operation. I have a lot of ideas, and I think that the technology's gotten improved substantially, especially in the newer facilities with newer boilers. But there are also a lot of high-tech facilities that are working off of century-old, scabbed-on, retrograded infrastructure. So back to the gentleman's point. Will there be more jobs? There may be more positions, but will they be skilled positions? And my point is, what's to keep someone who's been running a building, an older gentleman who has the 30 years of experience and the first grade license, who's going to become the chief engineer or lead engineer, and answer to property management and fill in these stop gaps for where property management doesn't understand what they don't know. That's why they have an engineer to help them. However, we know that testing isn't necessarily a great criteria for gauging someone's potential capacity, productivity, ability to lead, ability to be competent. So it's an interesting, it'll be an interesting future, because yes, there will be more jobs for engineer operators. Will they be high-paying jobs? I don't know, because often the pay scale is based on the area that the data centers are in. So if the data centers are going to where the cheap energy is, and they're going to rural areas all over the place, like Texas, Arkansas, anywhere that they can tap into cheap energy, then a lot of this is stranded natural gas, but not all of it. And then they're in rural areas. They're out in the middle of nowhere a lot of the time. Now, in these rural areas, the pay scale is not what it would be in a large city. So, where, let's say you make $50 an hour in the city as an engineer operator, you make $30 in the brand new AI super center down the street as an engineer operator there, even though it's the latest and greatest technology. And I don't know that I believe that a building's only as smart as its least competent employee or its worst leader. So one person can really jeopardize the integrity of an entire operation. But also I've worked in operations where it's a very smooth running ship. It's not hard to manage an operation compliantly, but some of the larger legacy companies, they fail. They survive on large brand staying power, advertising and marketing, and their political and special interest connections to maintain the contracts that they have. So also, engineers are exposed to hazardous frequencies. Like, you're around large infrastructure equipment if you're on site. Technicians, operators, field engineers, just using the blanket term engineer. We can say tech. These technicians are often exposed to hazardous and dangerous. For example, a boiler is a bomb if it's not operated properly. And when you don't have great leadership and you don't have great teams, I literally came from my last project where I would go on shift and one engineer would tell me how he wants to kill the other engineer that he just had to cover for, or was coming off of shift working with, or had a little bit of overlap with. And then the other percentage, and not at my facility on this occasion, but they want to kill the boss. They want to kill the chief engineer. They're like, I'm going to kill that motherfucker. I literally, it's a toxic environment. And don't let them fool you that because it's still corporate legacy bullshit and they don't really care about you. I hope I'm wrong. I hope you find the company that cares. I hope you find the facility that wants to be compliant. But all of the AI hype data centers, Elon's bragging about how fast he threw this thing together, right? Whatever his supercenter in Tennessee. Meanwhile, he's operating without permits for these gas turbines. He's doing a lot of shady shit. The local residents are complaining about serious health issues that we can't just ignore. We don't know what the long-term implications of any of this, and like bombarding the public with these frequencies from these servers that are running all the time. And none of them, I would say, largely 1% are maybe using some form of heat recapturing, heat recovery, because heat recovery is expensive. And this was a get it done by this timeline because I'm Elon Musk. I can do if I say I'll do it, I'll beat the deadline. But at what cost, Elon? So you built a piece of shit that you have contractors that come in from all over out of states. They make money, they exploit cheap labor, they band-aid shit. They just want to get their paychecks and get the fuck out of there, because they're dealing with a bunch of engineer nerds who don't know anything about construction. And then you have the engineer operators move in, and within the first or second years, you're going to have like so many problems manifesting. Again, I don't see how the AI is sustainable as a profitable, as if you do the math, how it's profitable. Look, and I'm the engineer that is bad at math, but luckily I've got a math-brained ex-wife and a math-brained girlfriend. And the math doesn't fucking add up, man, on AI. If it's costing you $1 a input, or sorry, $1.30 an input, and you're only making $1 an input, I can even figure that math out. And we don't know what the implications are of these high-powered servers that will be running nonstop. I'm not anti-AI. I'm not anti-data center. But if they're going to do it, we need to do it right. And rushing, like the Navy or whatever, the military, Marines, is like slow is fast, fast is slow. Or slow is smooth, smooth is fast. That's what it is. And it's so true. Because, look, I worked in construction for many years, and I was often the guy that would go in, bid on a job, and they'd tell me, hey man, you're too expensive, I'm sorry. But I didn't advertise, I was word of mouth. And I didn't take it personal, it's fine. I understand, and I try to work and operate within people's budget as much as possible. But also you realize at some point, you've got to sell yourself without selling yourself short. So you've got to cover your bases, which means covering your ass, which means, charging what you charge, which is a fair price. I believe in charging fair. I am being transparent about why I'm charging what I charge. But I would say 75% of those people called me back after some other contractor had messed up their kitchen, messed up their plumbing, messed up their home. They were at a loss, walked off the job, couldn't figure it out, couldn't fix it. And, coming behind someone else to try and troubleshoot and fix their work, you charge twice as much because it's twice as hard. I don't care how good you are and how great of a team you assemble, you don't know what you're getting into. We don't know what we don't know. And when people say that they're right, man, that's a big red flag for me that this person's not open-minded and very set in their ways. Often this is the academics school of thought. The math adds up, the science adds up. Even architects, engineers, I'm not getting sorry, shouldn't judge. I'm not, my point's not to judge. My point is that there may be a lot of engineering and operation jobs in the future, but my recommendation was go into PCBs, printed control boards, microcontrollers, robotics, automation. He already had a background in switchgear and heavy, three-phase 440 electric. So I would recommend going into, electricity, something electric. I mean, energy grid's going to be huge. Building out electrical infrastructure is going to be huge and pays well. Robotics, automation isn't going anywhere. I wouldn't really spend much time on AI. It's really easy to get up to speed on AI. It's not much different than using Google. It's just knowing the tools to use and when and where to use them. Also knowing that they may not be what a lot of people believe that they are, and they may not be able to do what. I'll take a human being and their expertise or experience over something that's good at analyzing and predicting large data and condensing it. You know what it can't create trust. And human interaction is how you create trust. Like, you shouldn't trust me. You don't know me, but my friends know me. Or maybe you've watched all my material. So then maybe you have a sense of who I am, and you do you probably have a pretty good idea. But we also, I heard Jet Li said, "Let it be," and that the Chinese people have a saying that is like front, back, left, right. And what that meant is that, like, just be centered. Everyone's perspective is different. So maybe he's right. I hope he is. I hope that the engineers of the futures, operators and techs on the futures are in these AI sophisticated plants, and they have great mentors, and they're very compliant, and they're safe. And I'm happy to help facilitate that, as those are my arenas of some of my talents that would be going to waste. Nuclear, quantum, AI, space travel, space data centers in space. These will be bubbles. These are all speculative, man. There's a lot of money flowing into it, but that's like kind of crypto markets. If you don't know what crypto's it's you can lose a lot. And I'm really just a Bitcoin guy as I see the utility for it. I'm not currently, our collaboration doesn't currently mine Bitcoin. We only solo mine as it's a lower overhead and another way to support the network. We have other projects in the winds for sustenance. And like, I don't know what else I really don't know what else to say. I guess I'll leave it at that. I've been rambling enough, and nobody's gonna watch 18 or 20 minutes of me sit here and talk about engineering. But yeah, I hope I'm wrong, and that these data centers are amazing places to work, that they create a lot of opportunities for work. But what I've seen in the past is what I think we'll see in the future. It's like a refinery, man. They build a place, it's a job, people get a job there. It's not a great job, it's not great paying. The people that all work there aren't geniuses. Maybe they have geniuses that are running the company, you know what I mean, like that founded the company. But that doesn't mean they're there on site and you're working with those people. I'll tell you a story. I have a friend who works for SpaceX Tesla, and like Elon Musk was coming to visit the plant one day, right? And Like, so they warned people in advance not to try to talk to Elon or have anything to say anything to him. And it's just funny because he's already started to bring up, and he's only been there with SpaceX, Tesla for a short while. And, well, less than 5 years, we'll say that. And it's just like, man, the same legacy, corporate, non-compliant, illegal, song and dance that's going on at every corporation. Insulate, isolate, and try to minimize the damage, avoid fixing systemic issues, and basically band-aid it. You know, it isn't practice what we preach, it's drink the Kool-Aid. So anyway, you'll have a good night. Prepare for the freeze. I hope that's of value to maybe someone out there.